Welcome back to Rooted Reflections, Episode 3, Big Feelings and Emotional Literacy. Hi friends, I'm Tammy with Resilient Roots Foundation. Over the last few weeks, we've talked about behavior being more than what we see on the surface, and how children borrow our calm when life feels overwhelming to them. Today, I want to talk about something that every one of us experiences: feelings. Big feelings. The uncomfortable ones, the overwhelming ones, the joyful ones, the confusing ones, the ones that sometimes leave us wondering what to do next. Because whether we're talking about children or adults, feelings are part of being human. And yet I hear all the time that many of us were never taught what to do with them. When I think about growing up, I don't remember anyone teaching me what to do with my feelings. My parents taught me a lot of important things: how to work hard, care for people, keep my word, that was a big one, and do the right thing. But understanding emotions wasn't really part of the conversation. Looking back, I don't think it was for them either. I think we're learning some things today that many previous generations didn't know. I want to start with a question. What did you learn about feelings growing up? Not what your parents told you, not what they intended. What did you actually learn? Were feelings talked about openly? Were some feelings easier to express than others? Was it okay to be sad? What about angry? What was it like to be afraid? Or did you receive messages like, "You're okay, don't cry, calm down"? Oh, that's a favorite one. My husband used to say that to me when we first got married. Of course, probably I needed to calm down when he said it, but somehow just hearing the words "calm down" did not sit well with me. It's not that big of a deal. That's another common thing that people say. And a lot of times they mean well, right? They're trying to make you feel better. But in your world in the moment, it is a big deal. Before we go any further, I want to say something important. This isn't about blaming parents, right? I can openly say that I wasn't, and I'm still not a parent without mistakes. We're human, right? Didn't we say that earlier? In fact, one of the things I hear over and over in conversations with adults is, "My parents loved me. They were great. I love them. They did the best they could." You know what? I believe that. I wouldn't trade my imperfect parents for anything. You know, when you have those moments, you never forget. Someone that says something that sticks with you and shapes the way you look at the world. A trainer that spent the day with the staff and parents from my preschool said, "Parents are doing the best they can with the skills, tools, experiences, and understanding that they have at the time." And that's true, right? We do what we know to do. That is when it became my calling to learn as much as I could and to share as many tools with as many families and educators as possible. The goal isn't to look back and assign blame. The goal is to look forward and ask ourselves, what do we want to pass on to the children in our lives? Because many adults will tell you they want to do some things differently than past generations because they're learning. We're learning things today that previous generations weren't taught. You know what? If we think about our grandparents and our parents, they probably suffered in ways for that, just as we do a little bit at times. One thing I've noticed over the years is that children are often very comfortable having feelings, right? They're comfortable with their feelings. They know how to show them sometimes until, and here's the honest truth, until they learn they're not supposed to. Let me say that again. Children are often very comfortable having feelings until they learn they're not supposed to. Young children cry openly. That's how they communicate. They laugh loudly. There's nothing better than them showing their excitement freely, expressing disappointment honestly. They don't spend much time pretending, but over time, children begin learning lessons about emotions. Not from a curriculum, not from a worksheet or a lesson plan, but they start learning it from us, from the adults around them. They're learning, are my feelings welcome? Are feelings safe to talk about? Do I need to hide certain emotions? Can I ask for help when I'm overwhelmed? What happens when I'm sad, angry, or scared? You know what? The lessons that they're learning from us are often, they stay with them much longer than we realize. I think this is where many of us get stuck. When a child is hurting, we want to help. When a child is sad, we want to cheer them up. When a child is frustrated, we want to fix the problem. My poor husband gets used in a lot of examples, but I can remember when our oldest son was in middle school, and if he failed a grade, if he failed an assignment, if he lost something, if something wasn't turned in on time, my husband would go to that teacher and he would ask them for extra credit or if he could try it again. And sometimes the teacher allowed that, and sometimes they didn't. What about the many times that our children forget their lunchbox at home or forget something at home that they need at school, and they're calling us to come and pick it up and bring it to them? You know what? A lot of times that's natural, right? We want to fix the problem for our child. When a child is disappointed, we really want to make it better. It hurts our heart. We want to make it better for them. And those responses, they come from love because we love our children. But sometimes the greatest gift we can give a child isn't fixing the feeling. It isn't fixing the problem. It's helping them to understand it, helping them to recognize it, putting words around it, helping them to learn that feelings are not something to fear or something to hide, but something to understand. There's actually a name for this skill. It's called emotional literacy. And it's the ability to recognize, understand, and communicate emotions. It's being able to say, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated, I'm really nervous right now. And my favorite, because I do this to myself a lot, I'm embarrassed. Even I'm excited, I'm worried. Those may sound like simple words, but they represent important skills. Because children can't communicate feelings they don't recognize. And they can't learn to manage emotions they don't understand. In preschool, I had the cutest young man, and he would get so mad so quickly, whether it was something he didn't understand in the classroom, an assignment, something to do, something a friend wanted, or maybe something he wanted from a friend and the friend said no. and he would get so upset and he would start crying and have a meltdown. And we would come to my office where I had a cozy corner and a space where we could relax and calm down together. And I would ask him, "Are you mad?" And he would get this look on his face that you would try not to smile at. And he would have this very serious, pouty look on his face. And he'd say, "No, I'm not mad." And then I would ask him again, I'm like, "Are you sure you're not mad? Because your face looks like it's mad. You have tears in your eyes. Are you sure your body's not feeling mad?" And again, he would say, "I'm not mad," which is the most serious voice that he could have to let me know without a doubt that he was not mad. So I asked him again. I said, "What if Miss Tammy takes a funny video of us and see what you see? Let me know what you see." And that's exactly what I did. I took this video and I showed it to him, and he saw his face. And we talked about the water and the tears that were running down his face. And I asked him again, but this time I asked him, "What are you feeling right now?" He was very quiet for a minute, and he said, "I'm mad." And he named his friend, and he said, "He took my truck, and I wanted it back." But he didn't realize that he was mad. And until he understood that, he didn't know what to do with it. It's just like children learning the alphabet before they learn to read. They learn the language of emotions before they learn how to navigate them. One of the things that I've learned is that feelings don't simply just disappear, even if we don't acknowledge them. They need a place to go. They need understanding. What they really need is words, acknowledging the word of what we're feeling. They need connection. When children don't have the words for what they're experiencing, those feelings often come out in other ways because they're trying to make sense of something happening inside of them. As you go through your week, I want to leave you with a question. What do the children in your life learn about feelings from the way the adults around them respond to their emotions? Not from what we say, but from what we do. Because children are always watching. Their brains are mapping and taking memories from everything they see and hear. They're learning whether emotions are something to hide, something to fear, something to fix, or something to understand. And they start doing this as early as birth. And those lessons often stay with them as far longer than we ever realize. Thank you for joining me for this Rooted Reflections. My hope is that together we can begin to looking through a different lens at children's behavior, emotions, and everyday struggles. Because when we understand what behavior really is, we stop seeing problems to fix and start seeing skills needed. And sometimes that small shift changes everything. Until next time, keep looking beneath the surface and remembering that every feeling has a story worth understanding. Children learn regulation by experiencing it. And sometimes the greatest gift we can give a child isn't fixing the feeling, but helping them understand it. Rooted Reflections, looking through a different lens at a children's behavior. emotions, and everyday struggles. I look forward to sharing with you next time.